Today in YouTuber news, quick bites. Bite. Noah Beck wants Bryce Hall to apologise to Dixie D'Amelio after a stripper prank backlash. Mr. Beast has called out Russian YouTuber A4 for stealing his thumbnails. And Trisha Paytas speaks out against Rylan Adams and David Dobrik. I'm Benedict Townsend and this is YouTuber news, quick bites. Bite. Brought to you by PopBuzz, the only website that will fight to the death anyone who disrespects the good name of Jojo Siwa. Put 'em up. Put 'em up. Our first story, Bryce Hall is facing backlash over a bizarre and uncomfortable prank he played on Noah Beck and Dixie D'Amelio. That's right folks, it's time for everyone's favourite segment, That's Not How Pranks Work, What Are You Talking About? Welcome, I'm Benedict, you may know me from the main show. In the video, Bryce blindfolds Noah and makes him listen to loud music. Then a group of scantily clad ladies enter the room and start dancing around him. Meanwhile, Bryce video calls Dixie D'Amelio, Noah's girlfriend, to show her the scene and film her reaction. Dixie obviously just hangs up straight away and is quite shocked. That's not how pranks work, what are you talking about? Is that a prank? Now, Noah has stuck by his innocence in the situation, claiming to have been completely in the dark about Bryce's plan, as in the dark as Dixie apparently was, saying, quote, Bryce knows he kind of stepped over the line. It was a bit disrespectful, and he apologised to me, but he should also be apologising to Dixie. Dixie's mum Heidi was also among those unimpressed with the video, saying, quote, I thought it was trash. It was hurtful and I didn't like it. I thought it was disrespectful. When Dixie herself was asked about what she thought of the video, she replied, quote, it was okay, not his best prank. Now just imagine if that had been his best prank. What is his worst prank? Now, although we're glad Bryce hopefully provided some paid work to those dancers who we assume are self-employed, and it's a difficult time for the hospitality and performing arts industries, which of course we're certain was his main objective here, to sort of give back to those independent performers. As with every time we do this segment, we must remind everyone that doing something nasty to someone doesn't automatically constitute a prank. Kind of just sounds like you're doing something nasty to someone. And maybe instead of, focusing on a prank, Bryce should be using a bigger proportion of his brain power on the court proceedings that are currently being levelled against him. Our second story, Mr. Beast has called out popular YouTube channel A4 for copying his thumbnails. In a tweet on the 19th of February, Mr. Beast posted screenshots of 4 of his thumbnails next to A4's counterparts with the caption, quote, the largest channel in Russia just takes my thumbnails and photoshops his face on mine. And looking at the screenshots, Mr. Beast is correct. Now, we can't speak Russian, so we don't know if the similarities go beyond the thumbnails into the video content itself, but translations on Twitter of A4's response to the accusation imply that he thinks the quality of his content is precisely 10,000 times better than Mr. Beast's. It's a tale as old as time. A song as old as rhyme. My content is far superior to theirs, and I'll make that very clear by copying their stuff and making my stuff look exactly like it. It's an absolute classic case. And I really want to emphasize here that these are the same thumbnails. It's not like he's copying the style, he's taking the literal picture that Mr. Beast has done, and then quite expertly, I will say, putting his face onto Mr. Beast's body in the picture. That in the time it took him to replace the face, he could have just done a whole new thumbnail. It's a very weird use of time and resources. Now, Mr. Beast, on the other hand, may have inadvertently given the situation the Streisand effect, as although A4 has a hugely successful channel already with over 24 million subs, much of Mr. Beast's own fan base hadn't heard of A4 until Mr. Beast tweeted about him. That being said, because A4's videos are almost entirely in Russian, I don't think there's going to be that much crossover with the audiences. But it's tough when you're trying to be original and people are copying you and you want to just bite your tongue about it. It's just, you get a mustache, Harry Styles gets a mustache, you shave your head, James Charles shaves his head temporarily for a prank, You get a news show, suddenly there's this CNN popping up, or we're going to do news too. It's tough out there for an original person. And finally, Trisha Paytas has called out Rylan Adams and David Dobrik in 2 TikToks titled Irrelevant Trash. In the first TikTok, Trisha talks about Rylan's new merch for his podcast, The Sip, and the fact that it's being produced by Killer Merch, a company heavily associated with Jeffree Star. She goes on to call him out for lying about not knowing how Jeffree had treated Trisha for years before Trisha broke ties with Shane Dawson. She also references the fact that Jeffree Star is still working with Hair by Jay, who he claimed to have fired after the hairstylist went on Instagram Live spouting nasty hate about Trisha's appearance, as we covered on this very show. In the second video, Trisha highlights the lack of accountability from David Dobrik and Jason Nash over Seth Francois' recent allegations that the two had forced him to be involved in a non-consensual kissing incident for video content. She said, quote, "They just get a free pass to not even acknowledge it. They should donate the money from the videos, make something right. They get away with it because they're white, rich, and privileged," which, let's be honest, is a sentiment that applies to, literally every situation in society, doesn't it? It kind of also applies, I guess, to Trisha Paytas when you think about it. Ethan Klein has also taken to TikTok to share his opinion on the matter. Ethan, who of course co-hosts the Frenemies podcast with Trisha, recently interviewed Seth on his podcast, giving him the chance to share his story. He received a comment on TikTok from a user implying that because he produces a podcast with Trisha, he's not in any position to call out wrong and unethical behaviour in others. And in a video response, Ethan says, quote, "What does the fact that David has assaulted Seth twice for profit on camera have anything to do with Trisha Paytas?" Which is, a good point. That's all for today. Thank you for watching YouTuber News Quick Bites. We'll be back on Friday on Snapchat and YouTube with our full fat episode. And if that's too long to wait, a new episode of the YouTuber News podcast has been released today. So head out to your podcast platform of choice and make sure to listen to that episode because it also features an interview with Christine Sedelko. That's right, I had a nice chat with Christine and she was wonderful. So if you want to hear that interview, check out the latest episode of the YouTuber News podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave us a comment down below if you like the show or if you just want to, tell us something or ask us something or admit to some kind of horrible crime, because we read all those comments and we have connections with the police. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It's of course the best way to support the show and to get brand new episodes of the show first. But until next time, as they say on WandaVision, goodbye. The famous catchphrase.